everybody. How's everybody doing today? Just go ahead and get that going. I hope you guys are all doing nicely today. Who do we have? Let's see. We have Wrathawood, James P, and DLG. Thanks for being here, guys. Hey. Yeah, I'm a little tired today. I kind of like also the idea that I can space out my lounge streams between a couple of other things that I do every once in a while. So, yeah. I don't know, I was definitely looking forward to doing a lounge stream. Like, I actually was looking forward to it since yesterday, weirdly enough. Because I released a video that I really enjoyed making, which you guys might have already noticed. If you haven't already seen it, I'd highly recommend you guys go out and watch it when you get the chance. I mean, I know it's a bit long. I was really trying not to make it as long as it ended up being. But it ended up being quite long. It ended up being almost exactly an hour long. I did a video called A Discussion on Anime Character Depth? Or was it Development? I think it was Character Depth. And, that was something I really wanted to do yesterday, and recorded the video all, that day, and did the minor amount of editing that it needed, which wasn't a ton of things, but it is good practice since I do need to kind of learn how to edit a bit better, and, even if it's small amounts of editing, practice makes perfect and all that. But that was something that I really enjoyed doing and I really wanted to do, and it was something on my mind because of the shows that I had been watching recently. Wrathawood says, the stream has become a nice golden brown and is ready for consumption. There you go. Like a finely roasted marshmallow. That actually sounds really good. I actually have some coffee in front of me right here. Let's see, Mr. Lettuce just walked in. Glad to have you in here, Lettuce. He says, it was Colonel Mustard in the tool shed with the purple floppy dildo. Wonderful, thank you. You guys are too funny. Yeah, so I've been watching a lot of anime lately, and it's really kind of funny that, I come in and out of the mood to watch anime. Sometimes I go really hard on it, like I have been recently, and other times I just don't watch it for months and months at a time. But right now I'm kind of on this period for watching lots of anime, and I've been sort of in this mood where I'm calling it the Great Isekai Quest of 2021. And I am basically I've been trying to collect as many different kind of isekai animes as I possibly can and just kind of watch them and enjoy them at my own leisure. And depending on what, how interesting they are or lack thereof, I have been choosing to talk about them in videos, as you guys have probably noticed. It looks like Zoo just came in. What's up, girlfriend? Glad to have you in here. James P just walked in, says, it is always the butler, I say. Let's talk about... says anime. Yes, anime. I don't know. I really enjoy watching anime, but like I said, like there are times where I don't want to watch it. So like it's not like I'm not the most avid anime consumer of all time. I kind of, like I said, I have these on and off periods. Like pretty much most of my hobbies and most of my interests I have on and off periods with, where I get really obsessed with something and then I just go really hard on it and it's the only thing I do for like a pretty long period of time, and then I just drop it. And then I just don't touch it for months at a time, and then eventually I always come back. And so right now I'm in my anime on period, which is, like I don't know how long it's going to last. I assume that, since I'm going really hard on it, I'll probably have a burnout period at some point. It's kind of like how, like, you could even compare it to, Minecraft, which, Minecraft for me is kind of in an off period, where I haven't been wanting to play Minecraft. And so because I haven't been really wanting to play Minecraft, I just haven't been making any kind of content for it or anything like that. So Minecraft is kind of in an off period for me, whereas anime is in an on period. And that's how I treat all my hobbies, like legitimately. Like I just get really obsessed with a particular hobby and I go really hard on it, and I just keep doing it constantly, and then I just have to stop and drop it for like a long period of time, and then after that long period of time I come back to it again. So it just kind of depends how I'm feeling at any one particular given time, which is also probably why my content is so varied. So simply because my channel is just like a giant collection of all of my hobbies, and good God, do I have a lot of them. Zeus says I like weird but wholesome anime lately. Yeah, like, I know what you mean. Like, I always like it, like, when I watch an anime that has really wholesome values. There was one that I was watching a while ago that was pretty wholesome. Oh, if you want an anime that's really wholesome, there's, oh god, what is it called? It's the one about the girl who wants to be a librarian, and she dies and then is reborn in a small girl's body in like a world that's like a fantasy world, but it's not advanced in anything. And she starts introducing like technology. Well, she introduces like really basic technology to this world and like is improving it in the process. I can't remember what it's called, but it was really good. I haven't finished it. I kind of like stopped watching it for a period of time, and then I just didn't get back into it. But it's really wholesome because like it's literally just a story about a girl who her whole focus in life in this other world that she lives in is to make everybody's lives around her easier as best as she possibly can, by introducing, you know, chemistry and science and, you know, simplistic technology. Like, there's like a whole episode where she introduces like soap and shampoo to like people, and it just vastly starts improving everybody's lives because it's kind of like a peasantry kind of lifestyle for the majority of the people around her. So like people are pretty dirty and not very clean. So like the episodes where she's like teaching people how to make soap and shampoo and stuff like that, it's really nice, you know, and they need it. And that's kind of what the show is like. It's just a very wholesome story. I just wish I could remember the name of it. I guess I could try to look it up, but I totally forgot what it's called. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Unless somebody remembers what it's called, and let me see here. No, I do. Okay, Lettuce. I do actually have Golden Boy bookmarked. I just haven't started watching it yet. But I do have it actually bookmarked as one of the shows in my list of things to get into. Let me go ahead and bring up this list of shows. I can't remember. Oh, get that advertisement out of the way. Gross. I just can't remember what it was called. Let's see here. I'm kind of looking through the popular list to see if they have the one that I'm trying to remember, but I can't think of its name, and I'm not really seeing anything. Goodness gracious. Ugh. I don't see it in here. I was watching it for a while, and it was really good. Like, it was very, very good. And it's not like, it's not, I don't know how to describe it. It's not like your stereotypical kind of, like, isekai. It is technically an isekai anime, but it's not, oh, gee whiz. If anybody remembers the name, go ahead and put it in the chat. Like, I can't remember the name of it at all, and that makes me feel really bad, because I do know that I do want to get back into it and watch more of it, but for the life of me, I cannot remember the name of it in the slightest. I don't even want to go through the index. Forget it! I don't even care. But yeah, it's really good. It's a girl who, oops, didn't mean to hit the camera there. It's a girl who is a librarian, and she dies, ironically, in the library that she works in. She gets killed by books. Like, books literally... Like, she knocks... Somebody... Like, something bad happens, and a bookshelf gets knocked over, and the bookshelf... Like, mind you, like, a big library bookshelf. Like, the huge, super crazy heavy ones filled with books. And it, like, falls on top of her and kills her. And then she gets reborn into... like this fantasy world, but the fantasy world is not like your stereotypical isekai fantasy world. It's like I said, it's like peasantry and class based, and like she gets born into a family of very poor people that are part of the peasantry class. And like the whole story is just her, you know, growing up to be this really intelligent little girl who starts creating things that are readily available in her world to be able to use to make everybody's lives better around her. And the idea is that her dream is to mass produce books so that she can become a librarian again, because that's what she's obsessed with is books. Oh, Zoo, your builds in Minecraft are getting really better, huh? That's cool. I really should get... I was thinking about maybe coming back and playing a little bit of Minecraft, but I just haven't been in the full mood, and I haven't been particularly inspired to build anything specifically, so maybe I'll get back into it. Lettuce says, I will never suggest Golden Boy when talking about anime. Okay. It's very educational. Okay. Well, I have it bookmarked. Like, let me just make sure that I do have it over here, because I'm pretty sure I do. Because I have, like, a list of... Yeah, it's in there. Yeah, so I have, like, a list of, like, animes that I'm going to get into, because, like I said, like, I have this huge collection of stuff, and I've been going through all sorts of different ones. Like I said, I've been really into, oh, is Google in here moderating people? Goodness gracious. That's so funny. That's so funny. Yeah, the Google moderator team has been pretty intense lately. I've noticed that, which is, you know, whatever. It's fine. I mean, it's not like I can do anything about it, but usually it doesn't feel like it's a huge problem. Golden Boy is very educational. Interesting. Let's see. Oh, okay. Hi, Roxas. Glad to have you in here. Sorry you have to leave right away. Do it. Watch it. Unless Akira Toriyama is censored? Oh, weird. Okay. Google is picking on lettuce over here. Is that actually what it's called? I don't think that's what it's called. I thought it was called something else. The Wrath of Wood kind of, like, put up a title, and I don't actually know if that's the correct answer or not. Goodness gracious, I wish I could remember the name of it. I thought it was, like... Oh, gee whiz. I should have, like, bookmarked it and kept the bookmark. Oh, that's right. I know how to find it. So, like, what's really cool about the website that I use is they actually highlight all the animes that I have watched already. So, if I kind of, like, go through the index and then kind of, like, let's see. Ascendance of a Bookworm. That's what it's called. It's called Ascendance of a Bookworm. I was lucky that it had the letter A, because when I went into the index, it was like the first one at the very top. Like, no joke, it's at the very top of the list of the index. So that was very convenient for me. Yeah, so go check it out, Zoo, if you're still in here. Look up Ascendance of a Bookworm. You'd probably love it. It's great. It's really wholesome. And I've watched a few other ones that are very wholesome as well. Like, there was one that was called, I think it was called, like, My Life is a Villainess and All Routes Lead to Doom or something like that. And it was a story about a girl who's reincarnated as, like, a princess or something. Either a princess or a noble or something like that. And the thing is that she's reincarnated as, like, the evil princess in, like, a video game that she played. And... apparently, if I remember correctly, the whole shtick of the story is that the princess or noble or whatever she's reincarnated as is like this really mean, nasty bitch to like everybody in the story, and because of her mean and nasty, attitude towards everybody. In the game, the idea is that no matter what direction you go in the game, that character dies at the end of the game. So she gets reincarnated as that character when she dies, and she realizes that she's become that, evil, nasty princess character that dies at the end of every ending of the game. And so the whole story is that she's doing everything she can to, like, make it so that she won't die because she knows how the game ends. So she's trying to, like, use every, like, flag that she remembers from playing the game to, like, prevent it from killing her. So, and it was really entertaining, and the story is basically revolving around her, like, friendships and relationships with people. And I remember it being really wholesome because it was all about, her trying to just be really kind and friendly to people. And I remember that it's not like it wasn't your stereotypical fluffy, like, obnoxiously cute friendliness. It was like there were, like, moments where, like, a lot of the people were dealing with really realistic problems, and she would go out of her way to help them. And it was just really cute and wholesome how they went about it. And I am a very big fan of anime that hey G, glad to have you in here, buddy. I'm a really big fan of anime that's just gives you that warm, fuzzy, wholesome feeling. I love that kind of stuff. And, like, I really like it when you see, like, I don't know, I like animes that tell stories that make characters feel really human and kind of, like, help each other out and things like that. Like, there were, for example, yesterday when I released the video that was talking about the anime Gate. The anime Gate has a lot of stories like that in it, where you get that warm, fuzzy feeling because the characters are, working really hard to help out their fellow, human beings. Just to kind of, because they're sympathetic for them, or they empathize with them, or whatever. And it has a lot of moments like that. Like, I was kind of talking about, like, a couple of the characters. There were a couple characters that really kind of, like, my heart went out to them in that story. I talked about Tuka. When I'm talking about the anime Gate, there's a elfin girl named Tuka, and there is a young little human girl who named Sherry. And oh my god, their stories are so sad. Like, their stories are so sad, but they're so realistically sad that, like, they're so realistically sad, and how the problems of how sad they are solved, and, like, the way that they tell the story makes you really sympathize with them, and it feels really realistic, and you can imagine, those characters as real human beings going through real human problems and human issues, and that's what makes you feel that way for them, if you know what I'm saying. It makes you feel like that, like I said, like, one of the things is when it came to the characters Tuka and Sherry, like, they make you feel like you want to protect them, because they're so... those two lady characters in that show are very... based on the tragedies that they go through in the anime, you want to, like, protect them. You can imagine them as real people going through real human problems, and that, you can see, like... Tuka the elf girl has, like, these really serious mental issues. Like, she basically goes through a really tragic event in the story, and she has a very hard time accepting reality and coping with, what her life is after going through that traumatic experience. And it's incredibly sad. Like, it's incredibly sad. Watching her trying to, like, cope with the trauma of what she went through is just, like, the saddest damn thing. And then the character Sherry is a girl who, uh, it's the thing with Sherry is that like so Tuka's like a full grown woman, but Sherry is like a very young girl. Like I don't remember how old they said she was. I think they said she's like 11 years old or something like that. And what's really sad about Sherry's story is that like she's a young 11-year-old child, and the story basically puts her in a position where she has to grow up like very, very quickly. Like mentally, what I mean by that is she has to like, and they kind of like, as you get to know the little girl Sherry, she has a very like she's very good at understanding things from a more adult perspective, in the sense that like she's still a child, but based on, because she's basically a nobleman's daughter, and the premise is that like at some point in the future she's going to have to take on the responsibilities of her noble class. And the whole story is that, as an 11-year-old girl, being a child, she has to learn how to deal with adult problems, and and they explain like that she's really intelligent because she's been forced to have to be that way because of her position within her family and things like that, which was really fascinating. But then in the story, despite her level of intelligence and how adult she can act and be, everything is kind of like thrust upon her suddenly due to the circumstances of what's going on in the storyline. And watching her have to instantaneously, as an 11-year-old, like accept the fact that she's not allowed to be a child anymore, like she has to grow up and she has to kind of deal with these very scary and adult situations all of a sudden, makes you really care about her. Like, because one of the things is that they kind of like really do with her character, little 11-year-old Sherry, is that it's kind of unfair that she has to deal with that as a child, and they make you really feel that for her, like, because you can recognize that, like they remind you that she's an 11-year-old girl and it's not fair that she has to deal with all of these adult situations and adult problems. And it's sad, like watching her have to act and survive in a way that an adult would find normal, but she's just an 11-year-old girl and she doesn't know how to fully cope with it, which is what made Sherry a really interesting and kind of sad character in the storyline. It's a great show. Like, go watch Gate, you guys. It's so good. That's why I was talking about it so much in yesterday's video. It's fantastic. And I mean, the characters are so realistic, but that's kind of why I've been going about this so-called Great Isekai Quest of 2021. I've been kind of like, rummaging around through as many isekai animes as I possibly can. Because I've been in like that fantasy mood. Like, I know that there's plenty of other kinds of animes other than isekais, obviously. But I've just been in the mood to watch a really good fantasy story. That's what I've been kind of focused on. Is I like the magic, I like the different worlds, I like the fantastic beasts and characters, I like the your hero character who goes out and tries to save the world and all that stuff. Like, I'm a big fan of that. I really am. And so that's why I've been kind of like focused on watching isekai animes specifically. And so I've been basically kind of just going through them, and I mean, I've been criticizing them very clearly and obviously. Like, I've definitely watched some really bad ones. And the thing is, too, is that I also feel like I was really mean with what was it called? The Wise Man's Grandchild in yesterday's video. I was being pretty mean to that show. But the thing is that, like, that's not the worst isekai I've ever seen. Like, yeah, I was being really mean to it and all that. But it's not the worst one I've seen. It was just, like, it was so abhorrent in its character development that it stood out to me as being so bad. And, like, you know, I want to once again state, it's not the worst isekai I've ever seen. But the injustice that it did to its character development was really disappointing. It was really, like, and it stuck out like a sore thumb, you know, especially when I compared it to the other show, Gate, which was so very incredibly well done with its character development. Let me take a sip of coffee real quick. Very good. James P says the AMV of Bicycle on YouTube, amazing AMV using Golden Boy footage. Okay. I don't really know much about Golden Boy because I haven't watched it or read anything about it, but I will check it out. I've heard lots of good things about it. I just haven't seen it yet. Lettuce says Google is going hard on me, but I'm allowed to talk about the use of a floppy purple dildo. I don't know. It's weird because, like, it seems like Google picks on specific people, and, like, a lot of the people that get picked on by Google get repeatedly picked on. Like, I feel like whenever I hear people talk about, oh, Google's at it again, or Google's coming down on me, I always feel like I hear that from the same people over again. And Lettuce, you're like a repeat offender, Home Slice. I feel like I always hear you specifically get picked on by Google, which cracks me up. G says Golden Boy is crazy but fun. Wow, G, I didn't think that wow. I didn't think that was one that you watched. Well, you know, I feel like I could probably trust your opinion, especially. You're like now like the 4th or 5th person to recommend me Golden Boy. So yeah, I definitely have to give it a watch because there are too many people that I trust that have been telling me that it's a great anime. And like I said, it is on my list of to watch. Oh, it's very old school. Oh, and there's only 6 episodes? Really? Huh. Let's see. It says, Kintaro doesn't look like it, but he is a genius who completed all his university courses and then quit before graduating. He becomes a wandering student going from place to place on his bicycle, seeking to learn what he can about life, the world, and women. Ooh la la. He is willing and able to do any kind of job he has to prove to himself. His travels take him to a variety of locations and a variety of women, ooh la la, each who learn to love the hardworking guy, but not before he can run off. Okay, so he's like a rogue. Like, he's kind of just off doing his own thing, being whoever he wants to be. And it's only 6 episodes. That gives me some FLCL vibes, you know? Alright, well, I didn't realize it was only 6 episodes. Maybe I'll just watch all of it tonight. An original video animation, Golden Boy by Tatsuya Igawa. Wow, and there's that's some, like, 90s style animation. Holy crap. Where, like, the women are, like, it's classic 90s style where, like, the women are overly stylized and they went way hard on the shading and animation. Ooh. Do I see perky nipples? Is this like a hardcore anime, like 90s style adult taste? Like, oh my goodness. I'm definitely going to have to check this one out for sure. I did bookmark it, so I went into my bookmarks and brought it up just to make sure. Alright, I just didn't realize it was only 6 episodes. That's nuts. I'll definitely check it out. DLG is in lurking mode. Thank you, buddy. Just be prepared for ridiculousness. Dude, G, like, don't even talk to me about being prepared for ridiculousness. I will never forget introducing you to FLCL, and I will never, I remember so well, it's so vivid in my memory, coming over and, like, forcing you to watch all 6 episodes of FLCL with me, and, like, you hated it. Do you remember, dude? You hated it. You, like, thought it was awful. And then, like, you were like, I hated that. That was terrible. I don't ever want to see it again. And then, like, I will never forget, like, I think it was, like, a week or two later, you were like, hey, bro, do you still have, like, the FLCL videos? And I was like, yeah, of course I do. And you were like, can you bring them over so that I can, like, rewatch them? And I was like, but I thought you hated it. And you were like, yeah, but I was thinking a lot about it. And, like, I kind of wanted to see it again, because I feel like that, like, there were parts that stuck out in my mind about it, and I just wanted to rewatch it. And then, like, I came over, and we rewatched it, and you were like, yeah, okay, that's, like, one of the best animes I've ever seen. Yeah, man, FLCL, bro, it's the best. FLCL, Fooly Cooly, man. That's, like, that is, so... whenever anybody asks me what my favorite anime of all time is, like, if I had to, like, basically list off, like, my favorite anime of all time, and people are like, okay, like, there can only be one anime that you can consider to be your favorite anime of all time, what is it? And I always say FLCL. FLCL is my favorite anime of all time. It was, like, the first... So first of all, it was the first anime that I ever watched that impacted me so greatly as a kid that wasn't like Dragon Ball Z or Gundam or something like that. Like, it wasn't the, like, you know, mainstream Americanized animes like Dragon Ball Z or whatever. So, like, when I saw FLCL for the first time, I think I was in middle school the first time I saw it. Because I even remember... Like, it was one of those things where I remember exactly where I was and what I was doing when I saw it for the first time. I was at my grandparents' house before me and my parents had moved into it. And it was late at night, and it was Toonami was on. It was classic Toonami. And they decided to run all 6 episodes back to back on Toonami of FLCL. And it was the first time, and I was probably, I'm pretty sure I was in middle school. I think I was probably like in 7th grade. And it was late at night, and I watched all 6 episodes back to back. And that anime, like, changed my life. And that's when I started, like, watching Toonami every single night. I was starting to, like, kind of learn about the different kinds of anime. That's when I started picking up mangas. That's when I started, like, looking up websites that had anime on it. Like, then I got into things like Ghost in the Shell and just all sorts of stuff. So FLCL was kind of like that entry point into weeb culture. So FLCL literally changed my life, and I still consider it pretty much like the best anime I've ever seen. Like, I even I still have the original 6 episodes on my PlayStation 3. I want to reacquire them on my computer, but I haven't had access to them other than watching them on, like, websites or whatever for streaming. And but yeah, that is hands down my favorite FLCL is hands down my favorite anime of all time. And if I'd never seen it, I probably would have never been the anime fan that I am today. Oh, you got prints and stuff like that for FLCL? Oh, you got an FLCL tattoo? Oh, I'm so jealous, dude. Oh, that would be so cool. I remember I wanted to get at one point, I really wanted to get what's his name? Oh shit, I forgot his name all of a sudden. Lord Conti. I wanted to get Lord Conti tattooed on me at one point. I still kind of want that. I still kind of want to get Lord Conti tattooed on my body somewhere, but I haven't done it. I still only have one tattoo on me. I want to get more, but my main thing is just simply that I haven't had the time or money to do it. But I will. I have a bunch of tattoos planned out that I really, really want to get. But yeah, maybe someday I'll get Lord Conti tattooed on me. No, I don't have any. I don't really have any FLCL merchandise. I probably should get some though, but it's definitely my all-time favorite. So, like, the thing is that was always really entertaining to me about the title FLCL is that, like, you guys know that, like, the whole joke is that it doesn't mean anything, right? Like, there's a whole bunch of, like, inside jokes about FLCL and about, like, the title and the verbiage and the slang and the wording, like, but all in all, it doesn't actually mean anything. And it's actually funny because, like, the name Fooly Cooly is a play on words for a slang term that exists in Japanese, but the word itself doesn't actually mean anything. It's a non-existent. It's like, so Fooly Cooly is a play on words for a Japanese slang onomatopoeia. So, like, the actual name of Fooly Cooly doesn't actually mean anything. Like, the FLCL, it doesn't mean anything. Fooly Cooly doesn't mean anything. Furry Curry doesn't mean anything. Like, it's a joke. Like, that, and that's what I always loved about that stuff, too, is that, like, the whole understanding of, like, that joke and, like, the misunderstood... It's just a Fooly Cooly kind of thing. So, the original, so, like, the thing is that, like, Fooly Cooly, like, the whole joke behind understanding, like, what that is and what it's supposed to mean is that, it's, like, so, the Japanese language has this really interesting thing about their language when it comes to phonetics and grammar. So, it was actually funny because I was talking about this with somebody very recently. I was actually kind of talking about this a little bit with Fajook Enterprises, because we were talking about the loss in translation between languages and, like, grammar and phonetics and the language barrier and things like that. And so something that happens in the Japanese language a lot is that they have words that are very frequently phonetically the same as other words, even though they're completely different words. So, like, what ends up happening is there's a lot of jokes where it's kind of like a pun, almost like an English pun, but it's in the Japanese language, where they'll say a word that sounds like another word, and it'll be misinterpreted as the other word. So, like, one person can be talking about one particular subject, but because that word that they're using that defines the subject that they're talking about is phonetically similar to another word that would imply a completely different subject, that can get lost in, you know, the phonetic differences of the sentence. So, the joke about Fooly Cooly is that it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't actually mean anything. So, the whole thing about that is that there is a word, a phonetic word, called Cooly Cooly, which is, if I remember correctly, it's a Japanese slang onomatopoeia. So, the Japanese slang onomatopoeia of Cooly Cooly is supposedly the onomatopoeia for what it sounds like when you fondle women's breasts. So, the idea is it's supposed to be a jiggle sound. It's a jiggling onomatopoeia. It's just a joke. It's a slang term. It doesn't actually mean anything, but that's the purpose of it. So, like, one of the jokes that they keep doing in FLCL, and it makes more sense if you watch it with subtitles instead of watching it with dubs. So, like, it's because the English terminology and doesn't make the same amount of sense when you're hearing English voice actors explain it. But, like, when you're watching it in the Japanese language with the subtitles, the jokes make sense because whenever they're talking about Fooly Cooly, they're also losing that translation through the phonetic similarities between the nonsense word of Fooly Cooly and the slang word that represents fondling breasts. So, and that's why, like, if you notice when you're watching, like, you'll notice that, like, they have that whole bit in, like, I think, like, the first episode or something, where they're talking about, like, oh, it's that Fooly Cooly kind of thing, and then, like, he's, like, doing this, You know, like he's doing this, and then like the grandpa's like, no, it's more like this, you know, and like they're doing breast fondling jokes. That's the joke. Like that's the joke. So so that's what that's all about. It's a joke about breast fondling. It's about you know. So if you guys didn't know, that's what that is. Like that's why it's so funny. If you, like, in all seriousness, if you go and, don't get me wrong, like, the FLCL English dubbed is genius. Like, the voice actors and voice actresses that they got to do the English voices for all the characters in FLCL, it's beautiful. It's absolutely fantastic. Like, those voice actors, those English voice actors that did the FLCL dub are absolutely amazing and impressive. They did an amazing job. Like, some of the best English voice acting I've ever seen for a anime, hands down. However, watching the Japanese, you know, the Japanese dubbed FLCL with like subtitles has a completely different meaning and impact overall, because a lot of the jokes and like language, you know, puns and things like that, they hit differently when you're watching it, because they just kind of like make more sense, because you'll even notice like when you're reading the subtitles and then you're hearing them say the words in Japanese, you'll often notice that like they will say words that sound similar or almost exactly the same to like other words they're already saying in their language, which makes the jokes hit you differently, because you can understand, oh, this word sounds phonetically similar to this word, thus the misunderstanding in translation, thus creating the joke, makes more sense. So it's definitely a very different experience watching it with, you know, Japanese dubbed and English subtitles. But yeah, that's kind of what it's all about. Like, it's just the whole premise of the title being FLCL and them calling it Fooly Cooly and Furry Curry and all that, it's just a big sex joke. That's the whole thing. The show has little to nothing to do with like what the title is supposed to mean, because the title doesn't mean anything. Like, that's what makes it so great. That's what makes it so good. It's just a stupid nonsense joke that is like a sexual joke that doesn't mean anything. It's so good. Like, I love it. I love Fooly Cooly. It's the best. Let's see. Furry Curry pronounced in English as Fooly Cooly, which is FLCL. Yeah, that's what Bo's saying. G says, I'm actually wearing an FLCL tee. See, I don't have any FLCL merch. I need to change that. Like, it's always been my favorite anime of all time, and I don't own any merchandise of FLCL, like, at all. The only merchandise I have is the FLCL Collector's Edition Omnibus, which I've shown on camera a couple times. Like, and I also, like, I don't know if you remember, G, but I also still have the old Kyuko-chan books. Because I remember I let you borrow, do you remember Kyuko-chan? You remember Kyuko-chan, right, G? That was written and animated by the same guy who did FLCL. I love Kyuko-chan. I always kind of secretly wish that they would have done an anime on it, but at the same time, I don't think it would have... I don't know if it would have made sense if they actually made an anime of Kyuko-chan. I think the books are very... the Kyuko-chan books are very much their own kind of thing. And it's hard to kind of get the point across of what Kyuko-chan is about. Also, Kyuko-chan is a lot darker than FLCL. FLCL is a lot more lighthearted than Kyuko-chan is. Kyuko-chan has some pretty gnarly dark moments in it. Let's see here. I am irrationally afraid of needles. Oh, I love getting tattoos. Needles don't bother me that much. I have him on my... Oh, you have Conti on your ribs? That's so cool. Yeah, I should get that. Well, I mean, like, I definitely wanted Lord Conti or something like that. I also, like, I mean, a part of me wanted to get Ninamori tattooed on me, but at the same time, like, that's a little weird, you know? But, like, Ninamori was always my favorite character in FLCL. But I think, like, getting Conti would be probably cooler. Uh, Lettuce really does not like tattoos. Let's see. It's a fooly cooly kind of thing. Yeah, it is. They don't pronounce the R's as R's, but as L's. At least mostly when trying to speak English. Most other language don't have R's. Yeah, that's true. Nihongo is mostly a 2-letter parts ending with vowels ma, pa, ka, and etc. Furry curry. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I was actually trying to learn Japanese for a while, but I kind of, like, stopped learning it, and that was probably not good. Maybe I'll get into it again at some point. Dubbed and subbed is the only way to watch hentai. Nice. Oh, G-Gamer, I remembered that I used to be jealous of the copies of Kyuko-chan that you had, because you had one that was hardcover, and I have never been able to find a hardcover of Kyuko-chan, like, ever since you found that one copy that was hardcover. Never Knows Best with, yeah, the cigarette. That would be really cool, yeah. That's a lot of FLCL tattoos, homie. Like, I'm, like, diehard, like... And by the way, you would have never gotten into FLCL if it wasn't for me, so... If you're gonna be that diehard about it, I gotta get something done. Like, I must prove that I am as diehard, if not more diehard than you are. Because I'm the one that showed it to you, and I will, like I said, I will never forget when we were watching it together for the first time, and you're like, dude, this anime sucks. This is terrible. It doesn't make any sense. And then, like a week or two later, you're like, hey, can you bring it back over? I want to rewatch it and understand it better. And then I remember, because after the second time you watched it, like, you were like, okay, yeah, it's the best anime I've ever seen. Oh, man. Oh, yeah, an Atomisk. Oh, that would be so cool. Like, the big-ass bird. Oh, God. Or, like, another one that I kind of wanted was Terminal Core. Like, Terminal Core in dog form would have been really cool to get as a tattoo as well. Maybe that's what I'll do. Maybe I'll get a Terminal Core tatted on my body. That might be kind of fun. I have a whole bunch of tattoos I want to get, though. Like, I have a whole list of them. I wanted to get an Ouroboros tatted on my arm. And I also have, like, I want to get a Carl tattoo. Like, I wanted to get Carl from Aqua Teen Hunger Force tattooed on my body as well. And I had a couple of others. Like, there was, like, a skull with a ribbon that I really wanted to get. And, but yeah, I will have to add in, like, maybe, like, a Terminal Core or something like that. That would be really fun. Japanese is easy. Okay. I mean, yeah, I was actually studying it for a while. I probably should get back into it. Oh, yeah. Thanks. I appreciate that, G. I'm just giving you a bad time. I promise I don't care. It's all good. But I just, like, that's, like, a very dear memory to me of, like, just that, like, remembering, like, going and seeing it with you, like, you and me watching it together, and, like, you not liking it at all, and then, like, a week later, like, watching it again because you realize that you did actually love it. But it is one of those, in all seriousness, FLCL is one of those animes, you kind of have to, like, think about it, you know? You really do. Like, it's an anime that makes you think a lot, and, like, when you start realizing that, there's actually a lot to it. Like, and it's kind of like watching, what's it called? Donnie Darko. You know, like, nobody ever, you know, my favorite thing to say about Donnie Darko is, like, this is my favorite thing about talking about the movie Donnie Darko, is if somebody tells you that they understand Donnie Darko, that means that they don't understand Donnie Darko. That's how I feel about FLCL. If somebody tells you that they understand what FLCL is about, that means that they don't understand what FLCL is about. That is the sure sign that they have no idea what they're talking about. FLCL is about so many things. Like, there's no... Like, I mean, there's a general idea of what it's supposed to be about, but it's so complicated, and it's about so many things. Like, FLCL is about music. FLCL is about pop culture. FLCL is about growing up. FLCL is about puberty. FLCL is about, like, robots. Like, FLCL is about, you know, anime jokes. FLCL is about sex. FLCL is about, like, there's so many things that it's about. So, like, that's what makes it so great, is because it's one of those animes where, like, every time you watch it, you learn something new about it. Like, it's about so many things. There's no one specific thing that it's about. You know, it's like, and like I said, you can watch FLCL, like, and then have a completely different understanding and viewing of it each time you watch it. Because, like, you'll always notice something that you didn't notice before. Like, for example, like, something that's really fun about it, too, is, like, the creators of the anime put themselves in there. Like, and you'll never notice it the first time. Like, ever. There are multiple times where the creators of the show have inserted themselves into the anime, and it's like a little Easter egg hunt trying to find them all in the anime. But, like, you're never going to catch it in, like, the first few times that you see it. Like, you just kind of, like, notice it out of the corner of your mind, because when you have seen the show enough to understand the main things that they're trying to get you to focus on, you kind of learn, like, it's kind of like the idea of, like, memorizing it, and then giving yourself the time to, like, kind of look at other things outside of the main premise that they want you to focus on. Let's see here. Oh yeah, Gamer's saying, yeah, that he remembers hating it in the beginning. But that's okay, because, like everybody experiences it differently. Like, I've definitely had, like, I've introduced FLCL to a couple of other people, and they both had, like, completely different reactions to it. Like, one of my friends, like, didn't understand it, but they can understand, like, why it's interesting. And then I also had another person that I showed it to, and they were like, yeah, I'm not into this, I hate this. And I'm like, all right, you know, like, whatever. And they've never asked me to see it again after that, you know, so whatever, that's fine. So, like, everybody kind of has their own reaction to it, and some people, like, realize that they really like it and want to see it again, and other people are just like, nah, I don't need this in my life, and it's nothing of importance to me at all. Dude, that dog that eats cell phones was pretty dope. Yeah, that's Terminal Core. Terminal Core is awesome. But yeah, there's so much to love about the show. It's great. Lettuce is talking about Kingdom Hearts 2. You are way into Kingdom Hearts, bro. Like, growing up as a kid, I liked Kingdom Hearts, but, like, I grew out of it, and then I kind of, like, didn't really care too much about it afterwards. It's kind of like a game series where, like, I was a big fan of it when I was a kid, for, like, obvious reasons. Like, ooh, Final Fantasy and Disney in the same thing? Yay! You know, but, like, once I grew up, and, like, my taste changed, I didn't really get into Kingdom Hearts anymore. Like, even now, like, I hear people talking about it, and I'm like, yeah, it's not really my thing. But you know what? You do what you're gonna do, man, because, you know, if you're into Kingdom Hearts, which it sounds like you really are, like, definitely get into it and do your thing, homie. Wood says, I have no clue what was really going on for the longest time, like, years. Yeah, it's, like, I assume you're talking about Kingdom Hearts. I mean, not Kingdom Hearts, FLCL. It's definitely a show where it requires multiple viewings. Like, and, like, usually the first viewing, most people don't like it. I mean, I loved it the first time I ever saw it. Like I said, it changed my life when it came to anime in general. But, it definitely, like, the more I watched it, the more I got out of it. And, like, the more that I had experience through multiple viewings, like, learning more things and stuff like that. And the books are totally, like, a whole nother experience. Like, the FLCL books are way out there. Way out there. In fact, actually, they're probably a little darker than the actual show as well. Like, the whole, like, Mabase, which is the city that the story takes place in, like, in the books, Mabase is like a ghetto. Like, it's like a ghetto. It's not the nicest place to be in. And there's also a lot of, like, there's, like, a lot of derelict buildings, and a lot of the, in the books, the children in Mabase, especially the main characters, they go around and do whatever they feel like a lot. Like, it's literally like watching a bunch of, like, you know, it's like watching a bunch of, like, ne'er-do-wells kind of do whatever they feel like in, like, a trashy city where they can, like, go wherever they want and do whatever they feel like, and it's very interesting. The books are great. And also, if we're talking about like FLCL books, I highly recommend Kyuko-chan. Those are also great books. I love Kyuko-chan. And that's one that you don't really hear much about. Lettuce says Donnie Darko isn't that deep though. It kind of is. Like there's a lot to it. And like multiple viewings really help. And also watching the director's cut really helps, because when you watch the director's cut of Donnie Darko, there's a lot of really important things that kind of give context to other things in the story that are not in the original movie. Like every time, because like for example, if you watch the director's cut of Donnie Darko, the story's told in chapters, where like because like the whole thing is that in the movie, in the director's cut, well, like in the movie, he picks up a book from a woman who talks about aliens and time traveling and stuff like that, and all sorts of weird stuff. And after he, like, what happens is, as the movie's going along, they start dividing up all the different portions of the movie into specific set chapters, where when each chapter starts, they give you a page of the book and they kind of explain what that chapter of the movie is supposed to be about. And it gives more context to what's actually happening in the story of Donnie Darko. I love Donnie Darko, but like I said, it's definitely one of those movies where if anybody ever tells you that they understand what Donnie Darko is about, it means that they don't understand it. Like, there's still plenty of stuff that I don't understand about that movie, but goddamn, I enjoy it, and I love it, and, like, there's a lot to enjoy about the movie, but I don't need to necessarily understand it 100% to enjoy the story that it's trying to tell, you know? It's about time travel and alternate timelines. It's about a lot of things. Donnie Darko is about a lot of things. Like, it's, like I said, like, there was a reason why I was comparing it to FLCL. It's about a lot of things, dude. G says essentially about growing up. That's how I describe it. It's about a lot. Once again, it's about a lot of things. FLCL is about a lot of things. Maybe I need to rewatch Donnie Darko. It wasn't that memorable. I love it. I would recommend watching the director's cut for sure. Zoo's been spacing out. Well, glad to have you back to Earth and reality with us, Zoo. G says I get all my favorite animes from my friends. There you go. It's actually not that good of a movie, but the time travel theory applied to the plot, it's given up in the movie. I mean, it's fine if you don't like Donnie Darko. I'm personally a really big fan of it. And like I said, it's something where it's like, I don't need to necessarily understand it 100% to be able to enjoy it. G says my second all-time favorite is Jabin's pick for... Oh yeah, Samurai Champloo is great, that's for sure. Great music in that show. I was actually told about an anime recently. I can't remember the name of it, but apparently this anime that I was told about recently was created by the crew, the group of people, including the musicians who did Samurai Champloo. And if I remember correctly, it's an anime that's literally about musicians. So, like, the fact that it's, you know, like, it has, like, the original creators of Samurai Champloo, as well as the musicians, which is... The music is such an important part of Samurai Champloo. It's such a big deal, because I actually found out that the creators of Samurai Champloo were actually working alongside of the musicians of Samurai Champloo. And, like, the anime inspired the music, and the music inspired the anime, so they were, like, constantly working together so that the anime and the music were constantly in sync with one another, which is really interesting stuff, and that's what made Samurai Champloo so great. Like, the music is fantastic in that anime. Doesn't a plane crash in his bedroom or something? Yeah, just give it a rewatch, dude. Just go and, like, rewatch Donnie Darko. It's great. And I highly recommend Director's Cut, because there's a lot of stuff that, that is, like, cut out of the original film, and the Director's Cut really kind of helps give context to things that are otherwise hard to understand about the original film. Let's see, Lettuce says the movie came out when he was 22 and taking a break from gaming. Huh, okay. Don't really know what the context is for that, but that's fine. Still have yet to play. I love the art style and graphics. Seems cool. I assume you're talking about probably Kingdom Hearts from before. Bought the combo pack of all the games last year. It's just like, cause so the thing is that like, I remember going back and replaying Kingdom Hearts 1 and Kingdom Hearts 2 when I was older, because I primarily played those games when I was really young. But then when I got older, I wanted to kind of like re-experience them with like a more, you know, adult sense, you know, an adult mentality. And I kind of realized that I didn't really enjoy the Kingdom Hearts games the same way as I did when I played them when I was a kid. They kind of impacted me differently. And I remember that that I thought that the first Kingdom Hearts game was better than the second one. Mostly due to gameplay. Like, I thought that the gameplay in the first Kingdom Hearts game was a lot more hands-on and kind of complicated, but like intuitive. And the second Kingdom Hearts game was a lot simpler and not as challenging. So I definitely remember enjoying the first Kingdom Hearts game more than the second one. And the first one and the second one are all I played. So like I never played Chain of Memories or any of the other offshoots. I only played 1 and 2, and that was it. But I wasn't like when I replayed them as like a young adult, I definitely didn't enjoy them as much as I did when I was a kid. Let's see here. The series lore is actually pretty good if you accept the first game was written as a one-shot like The Matrix. I mean, all right. I remember a while ago I watched like, I think it was like a game theory video that was trying to like explain the ridiculous timeline of Kingdom Hearts, and I recall that it was this weird complicated mess that essentially loops. So like, in other words, like, I think that what they ended up saying based on the theory was that I mean, I could be wrong because it's been a long time since I saw the video, but it was that the main character was also the villain, I think. And the idea was that the hero played as the villain was creating the events that messed everything up in order to allow the hero to exist in the first place, or something like that. Mind you, like, that's just me saying what I think I remember. I could be totally wrong. I'll look up that video and give it a rewatch. It was like an old game theory video. Let me see if I could find it really quick on YouTube. Let's see. It's been a long time. I remember it being really interesting though, but it was also like it basically was trying to say that the timeline for Kingdom Hearts is a big freaking mess. Let's see here. Yeah, there's actually a whole bunch of like, oh my god, there's so many videos desperately trying to explain the timeline of Kingdom Hearts. Probably because it doesn't make any sense. Here it is. So this is the video that I saw, which was a game theory video. And it says, Kingdom Hearts timeline, not what you thought. Oh, and it's the science of, which is actually a different guy from the normal guy who does game theory. God, that's crazy. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of people trying desperately to explain the timeline of Kingdom Hearts, which I think, if I remember correctly, what the overall conclusion was is that the main hero is actually the villain or something like that. Or at least the main villain. Because, like, there's a few different villains, and I think that the idea was that the minor villains are all working under the main villain, who's actually, like, the hero or something like that. It's pretty wild. I'm gonna give it a rewatch later and see what I remember, because I remember it being pretty out there and crazy, and not making a whole lot of sense because of, like, it was like a time loop or something like that. Like, really weird. G says, I'm actually currently reading through my Shaman King. Oh my god, Shaman King. I remember that. I remember collecting the Shonen Jumps for a while that had Shaman King in it, and I don't know. I never got into it. I do remember you being a huge fan. You were the one who was constantly trying to make me read Shaman King. I do remember that. But I never really got that into it. It was never quite my thing. Your boy Lettuce says, like, the director's cut fully explains what's going on. Well, I mean, I don't remember if it fully... I assume we're talking again about Donnie Darko. I don't remember it necessarily fully explaining everything that goes on, but what it did was it made it so that every major, like, not scene, but every major plot point was divided into chapters. And the chapters, like, because what they would do is right before they would shift into the next major plot point, they would give you a page of the book that was giving you context into what that next plot point was. So, like, it wasn't like it was, like, spoiling the plot point. It was giving you context. Because without that context, you're only kind of, like, grasping at straws to try and understand what the point, like, what the plot point is supposed to be. So, I really like the director's cut. I mean, I know that it's heavily, like, I feel like Donnie Darko has, like, over the years been more and more heavily criticized. I don't care what anybody says, I still love that movie. Like, you can hate on it if you want, it's totally fine. I still think that movie's a great movie. G says Donnie Darko is about penguins. Clearly. You can tell because of all the penguins that are in the movie. Lettuce says, I like Donnie Darko, I just don't understand the whole cult classic following, and I have no idea why they needed S. Darko. Yeah, I didn't see S. Darko. S. Darko was like a horror film, right? So, like, I think it's, the problem with that was, what they were doing was they were creating a horror film, and they wanted to cash in on something that was successful. Or also draw in an audience on, you know, they wanted to draw in an audience of something that was successful in the past. It's kind of like how, like, nowadays when we have all these terrible remakes, like, all they're doing is they're just cashing in on something that was successful in the past. That's why they do it. Like, they don't care if it's the same thing or not. Like, and they don't want to, like, they don't want to take a risk. They don't want to, like, take a risk on making something that can fail. So, like, they're like, okay, well, if we want to, like, make this movie that has nothing to do with this other thing, but we want it to be successful, we'll just pretend that it's like this other thing. And that way we can guarantee ourselves to draw in an audience from something that is very well known. You know? So, like, that's why they do that. Like, it's not because, like, it's not because it actually is a continuation of whatever it was before. It's because they're banking on the success of something that was really successful in the past. You know, that's what they're trying to do. They're like, okay, well, this, like, it's, like, it was funny. I was in Perp's, Mike Hatcher's, stream earlier, and there were a lot of people who were saying that, like, you know, they don't understand, like, why, you know, Magic is able to make terrible products and, you know, break the game and do all this stuff when clearly people hate it and all this stuff. And my response to a lot of those comments was, the problem that you have is you guys are trying to understand this from a Magic player's state of mind. You guys are looking at the company and what it's doing from the point of view of a Magic player. But what you should be doing is looking at what the company's doing from the viewpoint of a businessman, not a Magic consumer. So, like, that's the same idea here with movies. Like, people are like, oh, but they keep making these terrible films, and, like, they're so bad, and, like, why would they do this? And, like, it doesn't make any sense, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, the problem is, you're looking at it from the viewpoint of a movie consumer. You're not looking at it from the point of view of a businessman. So, like, when a movie consumer sees a movie that's successful in the past, and then sees the sequel come out, and then they can view, like, the preview or the premise without seeing the movie. you know? And they say to themselves, this doesn't make any sense because it's clearly not a proper recreation or sequel of the previous movie. That's how the movie consumer sees it. But what a businessman sees is this movie made this amount of money. Therefore, if I make a new movie and name it the same thing or say it's a sequel as that thing that made money, it will make money. And a lot of the time, that's correct. Because they know that even if the people go out and they see a preview or an explanation of, you know, the idea that, oh, like, this is not the same movie, they know that there's a general audience that is much larger than that smaller amount of people who can immediately recognize that it's not good. They know that there's a huge amount of people that are not going to study and consider that information, and they're just going to automatically say, this is, you know, movie A, and this is movie B based off of movie A, therefore movie B will be movie A. And therefore they will go and they will spend their money without having any previous consideration or knowledge of whatever they're getting into. That's the businessman perspective. And that's, like, the problem with this kind of stuff is because, you know, like, you have people questioning, like, why it goes this way, and it's like, because you give them your money. Like, the only way, and the problem is, too, is that, like, you can't stop it. Like, you can't create an artificial boycott. Boycotts don't exist anymore. We don't have, boycotts, like, I'm sorry to tell you guys, boycotts don't exist anymore. They don't. You can't boycott anything anymore. It's not a thing. I'm sorry, guys. Boycotts do not function in our current state of economics. They don't. They don't work. It's, you know, not the 1940s anymore. Boycotts don't work. So the thing is that you have to just simply, you can't assume that you have enough pull or power to be able to tell multiple millions of people to not spend their money on something. But what you do have the ability to do is recognize that something is not good and actively make the choice to not waste your time and money on it. That's all you can do. Who is that going to better? It's not going to better the company and it's not going to better the people, but what it is going to better is it's going to better yourself. Because now you know that you did not waste your time and money on something that you don't give a shit about, and instead you spent your time and money on something that you do give a shit about. That's all you can do, and that's how these things work. So, you know, that's why you can't be questioning, like, what these companies are doing or whatever. The only thing you can do is let them do whatever they want and just make the choice to keep yourself happy and not waste your time with it. That's it. So, I know I used magic as an example, but at the same time, like, that's just how businesses function. If you want to try and understand why they're doing what they do, you have to understand it from a cold-hearted businessman perspective with money on the brain. And that's it. That's all you can do. So, you can't question, as long as you keep the mentality of a consumer, you can't even begin to fathom what they're trying to do, because you're not in the right mindset. So anyways, that was kind of my long-winded answer to why Darko did what it did. Because that was the businessman. Darko is a product of the businessman perspective, which is, they're not thinking through the mentality of a consumer. They're thinking through the mentality of what is going to make me a ton of money right now. And Darko, I mean, it was I don't know if Darko was a flop or not, but I bet you it made an assload of money simply because it used the Darko name. Was Darko a flop? Let's see. Let's see. It did bomb. So, and it got a 1-star rating on Rotten Tomatoes. But I bet you it still made an... Okay, here's probably the better question. How much money did Darko make? Let's see. Numbers say... Okay, so it says here that Donnie... Oh, wait, no, that's Donnie Darko. It doesn't... 6 million... Wow, that actually... Donnie Darko was a really successful film. Let's see here. Doesn't seem like they have a clean-cut answer for it. Let me see if it's in the Wikipedia. Because I am actually curious to see if they list how much money it made. They probably did. Marketing. Let's see if it's in marketing information. Critical reception. Production. Excuse me. I'm actually curious now to see how successful this film was. Because I want to believe that it was budgeted at $4 million, but it's not saying how much it made. But at least that gives us an idea of like what it has to basically make more than $4 million to be considered, you know, not a complete flop. Let's see here. Yeah, they say the okay. So this doesn't have the information of how much money it made. But it just says like what the production rate was. Let's see here. Financial information, the numbers. Here we go. This might have the answer I want. Okay, so they spent $4 million in production. And the total overall, like, so this is based on theatrical plus home movie. Wow, so it really flopped when it was released, but then it made up for it over time in total estimated domestic video sales. So, wow, this was a failure. Wow. So they spent $4 million in production, guys. The movie through worldwide box office was $1 million. That is a terrible failure for wow, that is so bad. They made up for it in market, like home market performance with like $6 million approximately. Well, actually, no, that's too generous. It was $5.3 million. So, wow, that is so bad. That movie did so bad. Goodness freaking gracious, that's so bad. Wow. Damn, guys. That is harsh. Wow. It's so bad. That is so bad. But anyways, the point is, though, is that, I mean, even though that movie really flopped, and they'll probably never, ever try to do something like that ever again with that franchise, in other words. The thing is, though, is that what they saw was they had businessmen saying, well, Donnie Darko was really successful, and it was critically acclaimed, and people loved it, and that's going to make a ton of money. So let's just try to redo it. Like, we'll just try to capture that lightning in a bottle again, and, like, make a ton of money. And, I mean, yeah, it flopped and it failed. But the point is that, like, that's what their mentality was, you know? They were trying to see something that made a lot of money in the past and then use that name and influence in order to try and recreate that success, which obviously they failed at. Wow, though, can you imagine? Can you imagine like, I've seen failures like that before. A famous one is Monkey Bone, obviously. Monkey Bone is a travesty of a failure. Where they spent way too much money creating that film and they made like nothing off of it. But yeah, they made, wow, like spending $4 million in production and making $1 million in the box office. That is so unbelievably awful. Like that is like there were probably a lot of people who lost their job over doing stuff like that. Like, goodness gracious. That's so bad. Jeez Louise. But yeah, like I said, like it's just rough because you kind of have to have that, you know, mentality. You have to have that businessman mentality when you're looking at stuff like that. Because, like, you're like, oh, it doesn't make any sense. And it's like, no, it does make sense. You just have to, like, understand it from, like, this made money. Therefore, if I recreate it, it makes money. Like, that's... And, I mean, that's not necessarily true, but that's not their thought process at that time. You know, that's not, like... It's sad, but that's, like, the reality of it. Let's see here. Ryderwood says, never got into Kingdom Hearts. I don't have the systems for it. Donald Duck teaming up with Final Fantasy characters sounds badass. Don't F with Donald Duck. Nice. DLG says, you mean I have to listen to Austin if I watch that game theory? Oh, you don't like Austin? I like him sometimes. It depends the mood that I'm in. Sometimes he's really annoying and sometimes he's not, you know? I mean, sometimes, you know, sometimes he can be interesting and sometimes he can be annoying is what I meant to say. Ratherwood says, these remakes / reboots are just using the recognizable names that they could buy up the rights for cheap enough. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. Wrath, imagine playing Final Fantasy X except for having... Yes, of course. Yeah, there you go. You know what? In fact, actually, I wouldn't be surprised if Kingdom Hearts... Because Kingdom Hearts was riding the coattails of Final Fantasy X. I think they were, like, kind of closely released at the time, and I think they had a lot of the same, like, a pretty similar production team, if I remember correctly. So that actually makes a lot of sense. There's a snake in my boot for talking about Woody. Very nice. Yeah, Wizards doesn't care about fun. They only care about money. And that's fine. Like, you know, like, see, that's the thing is because, like, I actually get a sort of schadenfreude feeling at this point whenever I come into Perp streams and listen to everybody cry about Wizards of the Coast. Like, that's my mentality now, is, like, I get this, like, beautiful schadenfreude feeling. Like, I sit there in the chat log listening to people, like, bitch and moan about what Wizards is doing, and I'm like, yes! Let the hatred consume you! Come to the dark side! Like, that's how I feel. And, like, I love it. And, like, I don't know if you guys have seen me in Perp streams lately, whenever those conversations happen. I feed it. Like, I'm such a troll. Like, because there are people, like, they'll be like, I can't believe they're doing this. And I'll come in, and my comments are usually like, oh, I think they're doing great. And people are like, what are you talking about? They're doing this and this and this. And I'm like, yeah, but they're making money. So, like, why should they care about anything you say? You're still paying them. Like, you can be as mad as you want, but you're still giving them your money. So, like, why should they change? Like, it's fine. Like, I try to stoke the flames constantly. Like, it's my favorite thing. It's my favorite thing, watching them get angry, because it's like, the reason why I love it so much is because of the knowledge that it's a problem that they have created. And, like, I love, like, trying to, like, I think it's like, I enjoy the idea of reminding people that they are creating their own misery. You know? Like, that's what I enjoy about it. I'm trying to, like, tell you guys, like, I keep telling people, I'm like, the reason why you're miserable is because you're paying a company to make you miserable. Like, that's why you're miserable. Like, you know, I love it. I get, like I said, I get this schadenfreude feeling. I get this beautiful schadenfreude from it, where it's like, you know, you're gonna, like, you can complain all you want. That's fine. Like, you can be mad all you want, but the thing is you're not changing anything because you're still paying them. Like, every time, I almost wish that I had the ability to kind of, like, ask each individual who complains about Magic. I kind of wish that I could just be like, so, are you gonna buy cards? Like, they're like, well, yeah. And I'm like, then shut up. Like, you know, like, I don't want to hear what you're complaining about because you're just gonna buy more cards. Like, who cares? I don't. So, but I mean, I also look at it in all sorts of different directions. I've looked at it in the same way with video game companies and movies and stuff. Like, I've stepped away from buying Magic cards because I don't like it anymore, and I don't want to be a part of their mess, you know? I don't want to be a part of the problem. And I do the same thing with movies. I don't go to movie theaters anymore. I don't go and buy DVDs anymore. I don't go and see movies because the movie business is so terrible now. So, like, why would I want to be a part of that? Or, like, you know, like, another example, there was one that I was thinking of a second ago, and, oh, like, video game companies, like, the big, like, video game companies, like EA and stuff like that, like, they're doing the exact same thing, too. They don't care because people buy their games. So, like, why would they give a shit if you're miserable about something? You know? Like, you know, like, oh, why would EA Games do this awful thing? And it's like, because people pay them to do that awful thing. So, like, why, like, it, like, legitimately, the old, like, you can't make boycotts anymore. Because the companies that people want to quote unquote boycott are too large to be boycotted. That's the flaw with boycotts, is that when you're a company that is large enough to, like, when you are literally like a you know, multi-billion-dollar company serving a product to multiple millions of people like every single day, like, boycotting is literally impossible against those companies. Because it's like, oh, we have a few thousand people, like a few multiple thousand people who are going to boycott your company. And it's like, okay, well, you know, your few thousand people are a drop in the bucket compared to the multiple millions of people that don't give a shit and just buy the product blindly. So, like, the only thing you can do is, like, and this is, like, what I want to say to you guys, is, like, the only thing you can do is just don't be miserable. Like, don't, like, the only thing you can do is just remove the company from your existence. That's all you can do. And yes, they're going to keep doing the awful things that they're doing. And yes, you can't stop what they're doing. But what you can do is choose not to be a part of it and not bring it into your life. And you'll find that if you start doing that, you're not going to be miserable about whatever the hell that company is doing. And it doesn't matter what kind of company it is. It could be Magic. It can be, you know, the Hollywood movie industry. It can be EA Games. It can be Bethesda. It can be anybody. It can be any extremely humongous multi-million-dollar company. The only thing you could do is just remove it from your existence and not be angry about it. And, like, that's the mentality I've taken. I have recognized and accepted the fact that I can never change those companies. That's okay. Because as long as I'm not, like, wasting my time and money on them, I don't give a shit about what they do. It's not in my existence, you know, and I don't care. Let me kind of look a little bit more here. Blah, blah, blah. I like that comment, Lettuce. Disregard females, embrace habanero. Absolutely. Truer than life right there, my friend. Let's see. Yeah, and it's like I said, like, the thing is that, like, when you're a company that large, the only thing you can care about is you like, you know, when you're a company that is that big, they're not people, they're just wallets, and that's the lifestyle that they maintain. You know, that's the business that they maintain. That's how things work. That's how it works for them, and that's fine. You know, but like I said, when it gets to be that kind of a thing, the thing is that what you're looking at is so much bigger than you that the only thing you can care about is your own well-being. Like, when a company is that large, you have to completely disregard them from your existence, and the only thing that matters is your mental well-being and your emotional state and your physical well-being. So, like, if there's, like, a company that's producing a product that you're obsessively buying and all it's doing is making you miserable, you owe it to yourself to remove it from your existence. Like, that's it. It was practically direct-to-video. I remember when Darko was in theaters. I do remember that. That was a big deal. But it definitely flopped really badly. Unlike DD, they had a budget on it because they wanted to retap on it. Well, yeah, that's... I mean, I remember it was in theaters for sure. But yeah, that 1 million box office is so bad. That's so... It's like... that is unforgivably bad. Like, that's like the kind of thing where, like I said, people lose their jobs from a flop like that. That is so bad. It took too long to get around to doing it, and the real Darko fans realized it was basically Matrix Reloaded. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You know how hard it was pre-pandemic to not make 5 million in box office? Yeah. Well, I mean, like, it's just that, like, they were trying to, like, tap into a market that they saw was really successful, and they utterly failed at it. Monkey Bone has, like, what, 2 or 3 fans? Most of them are here. Yeah. Well, like, yeah, Monkey Bone is my favorite movie joke of all time. Like, its existence is, like, I like to pretend, I tell people that, like, the Monkey Bone movie is like The Ring. So, like, The only way that you can survive Monkey Bone is by sharing it with other people. You have to share the misery of Monkey Bone if you ever want to survive it. Why do you think I'm still alive after seeing Monkey Bone as a child? The only reason I'm still alive from Monkey Bone is because I forced it onto other people. That's what keeps me alive, Lettuce! That's what I live on! The only reason why I'm still here in front of you is because I forced people to watch it, and therefore it is no longer my problem. Oh, man. Oh, hey, Helper Gamers. I'm sorry I didn't say hi to you, buddy. Glad to have you in here, homie. We're talking about a whole bunch of things. We were originally talking about anime and the Isekai quest that I'm on, but we kind of got into a lot of different subjects and things like that, which is pretty normal for these streams. And by the way, also, if anybody wants to recommend me any good, like, Isekai fantasy-style animes, please let me know, because I've been definitely making my way through my list, and I'm trying to collect much more. I even got recommended a few really good ones that, like, I mean, I don't know they're good, but they have such high ratings among the community that I'm really excited to get into. So, let me talk about this one that looks like it's probably going to be a masterpiece real quick. So, I was recommended in multiple different videos as well as anime communities an anime that I believe is from the late 90s, early 2000s, and which is considered to be, I believe that's considered to be the platinum age of anime. So it is called Now and Then, Here and There. And it's supposed to be a dark dystopian isekai anime. And I've heard some very, very interesting things about it. I hear it's basically a tragedy kind of story where it's very dark, it's very macabre, it's very sad, but I hear that it's like a masterpiece. So if anybody knows about the anime Now and Then, Here and There, that's an anime that I'm going to be getting into soon. It might be next on my list coming up. It's about 13 episodes long. And I'm pretty excited to get into it, considering how many good things I've heard about it. So, very, very curious about it for sure. Let me catch up a bit more. Ratherwood says, oh my god, hearing people bitch about MTG is so different when you give no Fs about it. It's true! Like I said, like, I'm at the point where I, like, feed off of it. Like I said, Schadenfreude, I feed off of it. I feed off of people's misery when it comes to Magic at this point. And the reason why is because, like, I enjoy the fact that it's like tunnel vision for these people. You know, it's like tunnel vision, where it's like, all they can see is that they want to keep, all they know is, I want to keep consuming Magic no matter what, and I am absolutely miserable because of what Magic is doing. And it's like, you know that there is stuff outside of that tunnel vision you're looking through, right? Like, you can break open that tunnel vision and choose to, like, not be a part of it. And you'll find that you'll be a lot less miserable if you do that. Like, I'm at the point where, like, talking about Magic doesn't make me feel bad anymore, like, at all. Like, I feed off of the misery of other people for Magic the Gathering, which is often why I talk about it, but, I don't care too much about it. I mean, I care enough to talk about it. I guess, like, no matter what I do, I'll probably always have some kind of connection to Magic the Gathering, because as long as I keep talking about it, that means that I still have some form of connection to it, so, which kind of sucks. But that's just kind of like, I've been playing Magic since I was 11 years old, you know? So it's like, it's really hard to just 100% completely give it up, you know? Even though I'm not buying products and I'm not playing with the cards that I own and, you know, I'm not watching Magic content, it's still on my brain and I still talk about it. So I think no matter how hard I try, it'll always be a part of my life in some way or another, even if it isn't me consuming the product anymore, which is probably the best thing I can possibly do, is don't consume the product anymore, because I don't want to be miserable about it. Let's see here. Google moderator team has it out for him. That's hilarious. My thing is, how do people not see this coming? Like, the stuff with Magic is what you're talking about? It's really hard. So, like, one of the things that is kind of hard to accept sometimes, that I've had to relearn this particular lesson over and over again. And I relearn it in many, many different kinds of ways that is actually pretty fascinating. So, one of the most interesting lessons that I keep having to relearn is the fact that every single person's brain is completely and 100% unique from everybody else's brain. So, like, and I mean that when I say that, it's about, like, mentality and thought process and things like that. And that's sometimes hard for people to, like, digest. Like, I forget it all the time. I am constantly have to be reminded that people don't think the same way that I do. Like that, and that's really hard to remember. I've had multiple conversations with people where they've reminded me that. Like, for example, I was watching a podcast a while ago that brought it up very briefly, and what they had to say was fascinating. In the podcast, there was a guy who was saying, you know what's really interesting is the fact that everybody experiences colors in different ways that no other person can possibly experience. And when he said that, he further explained, he's like, now I don't mean necessarily that, you know, yellow doesn't look yellow to me, or orange doesn't look orange to me. He says, whenever I look at a color, I experience a particular feeling that brings that color, you know, that makes that color feel a certain way to me. Like you have a memory tied to a color, or you have an emotion tied to a color, or maybe you have a person in your life that you tie to that color. And the thing is that that is 100% different for every single person on the planet. So, like, how, like, my favorite color is yellow, so how I care about the color yellow and how I experience the color yellow and the feelings that, like, the color yellow gives to me is something that is totally different for each individual person out there, because nobody thinks exactly the same way as I do. So, like, when I see yellow and I think vibrant and beautiful and you know, awesome and the best color on the world, another person can just see it as like, oh, it's just a boring color that I don't care about and it doesn't mean anything to me. You know? So, like, but then you have to, like, take that mentality. Like, that was just, like, a simple example using colors. You have to take that mentality and then place it with every single possible thought that any person could ever possibly have. And then you have to recognize that it's literally that, like, nobody can ever 100% understand what is going on in somebody's brain at any given time. And sometimes it's hard to remember that whatever thought process you may have about any one particular subject is never ever going to be the exact same thought process in somebody else's head. Now, yeah, you can find people that agree with you, and yeah, you can find people that experience a similar understanding or situation of that thought process, but nobody is ever going to be able to 100% recreate that very exact same thought process. So, like, when you and I experience something that may sound stupid to us because we have the mental capacity to kind of dissect it and understand it, there are people that cannot have that same thought process, and thus they recreate it and dissect it in different ways than what we do. So, like, what may seem stupid and not make any sense to us may make perfect sense and be a completely logical decision for somebody else. And then that doesn't even quantify, like, the level of intelligence that any one given person may have. Like, yes, there's intelligent people, and yes, there's stupid people, but there's also varying different levels of intelligence, and there's varying different levels of stupidity. So, like, you know, it's hard for us to be able to understand how people can possibly view something that is very obviously, you know, dumb or dangerous or whatever. But the thing is that when it comes down to it on a, you know, chemical level, like, every single individual person's brain just doesn't function exactly the same. So we literally cannot comprehend how somebody can take something that doesn't make sense to us, but it makes sense to them. We literally cannot fathom that thought process because we are literally completely different people. Like, you guys may agree with a lot of the things that I talk about, but, like, your individual thought process can never fathom what my thought process is because you and me are not the same person. We literally have different functioning brains with different functioning understandings of things. And like I said, we can agree on similar ideas, but those ideas that we agree on, your brain is still processing them at a different level than what my brain is processing at. So, like, even though we may agree, there might be little differences in that agreement that we would never 100% be able to understand from one another. And, like I said, it's easy to forget that. Like, I've had to have that, like, it's funny, like, I think this is, like, the second time I've mentioned Fajouk today. I had a conversation with Fajouk where and it was fascinating because it was that moment where I relearned that lesson, where I was having a conversation with Fajouk about something that he was trying to understand that he couldn't wrap his mind around. And I said, oh, well, obviously, with the key term being obviously, this is how that thing works. It works like this. And he replied back to me. He was like, you know, when you explain it to me, I understand what you're saying, but I could have never fathomed that idea before you explained it to me. So what you say is quote-unquote obvious is not actually obvious to me. And, like, that was a really cool conversation that I had with Fajouk, because it was once again reteaching me that concept of just because it's obvious to me, and I can just immediately realize, like, why it's obvious to me, doesn't mean that it is immediately obvious to every single person outside of myself, because we have different brains, we have different chemistry, we have different layers of being able to understand a piece of information and then wrap our minds around it. We're all very different. And that's really important because, like I said, I feel like that a lot of the time, some of the greatest misunderstandings in life, and a lot of the time some of the most pointless fights that people have with one another, like the hatred of, like a lot of things, like people who get really angry about things that are really silly to us sometimes, like whether it's, like, oh, I hate this person because of their race, or oh, I hate this person because of their politics, or oh, I hate this person because of their religious beliefs, or oh, I hate this person because they don't like Magic the Gathering, or I hate this person because they don't like the same movies I like, or whatever. Like, it's that thing that I'm talking about where they're creating a hatred because their brains can't fathom the idea that anybody is capable of having a brain that is different than theirs. And I think that if we all kind of, like, understood that, like, if we were all capable of realizing that every single person's brain is completely unique from one another, and every single person's brain is capable of creating thoughts that are 100% unique from everybody else's thoughts and thought processes, we would probably be capable of getting along a lot better. So, I mean, and that's what I kind of always try to remind myself of, because like I said, like, there are times where I have to relearn that lesson, and, like, I definitely get angry when I'm like, why would somebody do something so stupid? And it's like, well, that's because their brain doesn't function the same way that my brain does, and I just have to accept that, because that's how people function, So, I don't know, food for thought, I guess. Let's see here. Helvergamer says, yeah, I figured you were talking about Magic just from the context. Yeah, well, like I said, we've been talking about a lot of things. Magic is just a hot topic for me, like it always is. I'm probably the only person who hates Magic and still talks about it as much as I do. Yeah, you can't get anywhere close to 20% of their customers to participate. Yeah, that's pretty bad. I assume you're still talking about the terrible, the lack of success of those movies we were talking about before. You'd be lucky to get 5%, which might maybe grab attention. Okay. Hi, Cobalt. Good to see you here. Just kind of talking about whatever, talking about all sorts of things. Lettuce says, I'll always be a Magic player only because of sunk cost fallacy. I've spent half of my life on the game to some degree. Yeah, I feel pretty similar. I mean, I would say more than half my life because I only just recently gave it up. Like, I would say that the last set that I sunk a lot of money into was Dominaria. That's the last time I really played Magic, because that was the last time that I felt like I really enjoyed Magic. But I mean, I did buy some cards. Like when I stopped buying like sets, like I said, Dominaria was the last set I really bought into. There was for a while I was still buying like singles here and there of older sets and things like that. And now I'm so out of it that like I don't even want to buy singles anymore. Like I was buying like really old cards just for fun and intrigue, and now I can't even bring myself to do that. Like I'm literally so disgusted by it that I don't even want to buy like the old cards that used to make me happy when I was a kid. You know, so that's how bad it's gotten for me. Lettuce says, I think that is Perp's story too, since we were in the same boat. Well, the thing about Perp, he's got it. He has the perfect setup when it comes to Magic the Gathering. So it's really funny, really, if you think about it. Perp is in the boat where his channel is built around Magic the Gathering, so he can't necessarily just stop playing Magic the Gathering. And the thing is that despite that fact, he still is in the boat where he doesn't want to spend money on Magic the Gathering because it's a waste of his money. He's come to terms with that fact. He needs his money to support him and his lady. You know, he needs his money to pay his bills. He needs his money to, support the channel. He needs his money to get himself set up in his new home. Like, his money is important to him, and he has had the capability of recognizing that he can't really afford to spend money on Magic the same way that he used to in the past. However, because of what his channel does, and because of the amazing support from the wonderful community that he's built around himself, he doesn't need to spend money on Magic. So he's kind of put himself into a very unique position where he can still create Magic content to make the Magic community that he's built happy, and he can still keep all of his money to like spend on the things that he actually needs all of his money to be spent on. He can also, and on top of that, he doesn't have to buy Magic cards. He doesn't. Like, he can keep up with all the news without spending any money. He can create all the content without, he still has to pay costs for his equipment and software and whatever, which is not that, big of a deal. That's fine. But basically, he doesn't need to spend money on Magic cards to, like, do what he does on his channel and be successful at what he does on his channel, which is creating Magic content. And he finds himself in the unique position that people legitimately love what he does and love his content so much, they just send him Magic products. And that's a unique thing. Like, as far as I'm aware, like, there's not very many YouTube channels or even content creators or what have you that have the capability to be able to do that, to be able to, create Magic content with very little cost, keep up with the news, have a successful channel, not waste their money on silly things like Magic cards, and support themselves off of the money that they do make doing what they do. And on top of that, he gets Magic products mostly for free. Now, I do know that every once in a while he splurges and buys Magic products. I've seen him do it a few times. That's fine, because that is, every time I've ever seen him splurge on Magic products, he's like, I had some fun money, and I wanted to buy Magic products with my fun money. Dude, nice. And like, he was like, yeah, and I bought the Magic products, and they made me happy, because I spent my fun money in a fun way doing something that was fun. And I'm like, that's awesome. Like, I always say that, like, like when I was talking earlier about people being miserable but buying Magic products anyways, I don't like that, because I don't like the idea that people would spend their money on something that makes them miserable. But in that situation with Perp, he was able to spend his money for fun on something that was fun, which are Magic cards, and then he had fun in the process of getting those Magic cards and enjoying them. And that's super cool, and that's what I like. Like, if Magic makes you happy, then buy it. But, like, my previous argument was simply that if Magic doesn't make you happy, then why would you buy it? Like, that's stupid. But that's besides the point. My overall point is that he can be mad at Magic because he does videos about being mad at Magic. And he can choose to, like, not spend his money on Magic because his money's more important for other things, which is totally fine. But he also finds himself in the unique position, which is, honestly, more power to him. That's awesome. That people just enjoy what he does, and they want to show their support by sending him free Magic products. And that's what makes him be in that special position where, you know, you don't, like, he doesn't necessarily have to spend his money on something that makes him miserable. You know what I mean? Because, like, he can still be miserable about what the company is doing and make videos about it. And he can also choose that he does, like, because it makes him miserable, he doesn't spend money on it. And that's good. But he can also still enjoy Magic cards because they are sent to him for free. And that's really cool. So, I'm in the exact, like, I'm in a position where I want nothing to do with Magic. And, like, it's cool when people send me Magic cards, like, and I greatly appreciate that. But I'm also not gonna feel bad if people don't send me Magic cards, you know what I mean? So, like, for example, like, when, you know, people like Falcon or Lettuce or, you know, multiple of the people who hang out in my channel, you guys have sent me Magic cards, and I greatly appreciate that. In fact, actually, most of the cards that were sent to me are on display. I have, like, a corner over off in that direction. Where I have pretty much all of the very cool things that my fans have sent to me. And a lot of them are Magic products, and that's super rad, and I love them. But I don't love them because they're Magic products. I love them because my fans sent me those Magic products. You know what I mean? So, like, for example, like, one of my favorite things I have over there is the Geist of St. Taft that Lettuce sent me, and it has written in ballpoint pen, "Keep on sucking." And I love that. Not because it's a Geist of St. Taft, but because it's a hilarious, like, joke of a card that, you know, your boy Lettuce sent me. And, like, I even still have, like, all of the cards that Falcon sent me. Some of them are on display, and some of them are in my cube. So, and I adore them because Falcon sent me them, not because they're Magic cards. And, like, I even have, like, the cool little Pokemon merchandise that Fajook sent me. I have those on display over there. And I have, like, the little, like, letter that Wrath of Wood sent me with the crow on it that I love so much on display. I have a lot of cool things over there. I have the Calvin and Hobbes card that, who was it who sent me the Calvin and Hobbes card? I think that was, it wasn't James P. It was, oh, damn it. I can't remember now. Oh, I feel terrible. It's somebody who comes in my channel but doesn't, he isn't here constantly, but he comes in every once in a while. And I just feel terrible because I can't remember exactly who sent it to me. But I have a Calvin and Hobbes Magic card that one of my fans sent me. And who was it? They're probably in my Discord. I feel so terrible that I can't remember their name right now. Was it Crash Test? Maybe it was Crash Test who sent me it. I think it might have been Crash Test. Because that sounds really familiar to me. Oh, well. Well, whoever it was that sent me the Calvin and Hobbes, like, fan Magic card, I'm so sorry that I can't remember your name off the top of my head. But I greatly appreciate you, and thank you so much for sending me that, because I have it on display and I absolutely adore it. So, I swear I'm not trying to be insulting by forgetting who you are. It's just not coming to my mind. I'm so sorry, but I really love it, and I do have it on display, and it looks really cool over there in the corner. But anyways, let me catch up. It's like, you know, like, I don't really care about Magic cards, and, like, if people send me them, then that's super cool, but it's not like I'm demanding them from people because I don't feel like I need them, you know what I mean? Let's see, Ratherwood says, I'm still an MTG player because I have all these cards in my closet still. Yeah, I mean, I still, like, for example, I'll never sell my cards. A lot of my cards are cards that I've had since my childhood, so, like, I can't let go of them. I was never a person who would quit Magic and then sell all my cards. As a kid, my overall mentality was always, I might come back to this someday, and I'd like to have them again if I do come back. Which has been really cool, because that's why I have stuff like, you know, Charizard over here, or Palladium Moors over here, you know what I mean? Like, that was all stuff where it was like, yeah, I could have gotten rid of it, like, because I stopped playing for a while, but my mentality was that I would maybe want to come back to this someday. So I always kept everything that I always collected, and that's how my Magic cards are. Like, I am never going to get rid of my Magic cards. Like, I don't think I will ever be able to get rid of them. Kind of like my comic books. Like, I'll probably never get rid of my comic books. Any other collectibles that I have, like, I'll never get rid of my Pokemon cards, you know? Like, all the collectibles that I've had throughout my life, I'll probably never get rid of, simply because they played such an important part in my childhood and my life, and they still do to this very day. Even if I'm not necessarily buying them anymore, I still care about the ones that I've collected over time. Let's see. Bo Falcon says, I enjoy the game, just not the company that makes the game. At its core, the game is still great. You don't have to like what the company does with it. Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, because, like, Bo Falcon, like, that's what I was saying, is that, like, if you enjoy the cards, like, enjoy them. Like, buy them and enjoy them. But, like, if you're a person who is miserable, like, the game makes you miserable, like, because, like, I feel like lately whenever I go into perp streams, I just always see a giant collection of people who just want to talk about how the company needs to change, and they're so miserable because of what they do. And, like, whenever I see that, I'm like, you must live a sad life where you're constantly purchasing something that makes you miserable, you know? So, like, if you're a person who can buy cards and you love them and you care about them and you play with them and you get enjoyment out of them, then, like, please keep buying them. Because, like, the company shouldn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, what should matter is your enjoyment. But, like, if buying those things is making you miserable, like, you open the cards and, like, you're flipping through them and you're not enjoying the process, like, you're just miserable because you're like, why would they print this card? It's too powerful, and, like, this is a problem, and, like, why would they do this? And, ugh, this is terrible. I can't believe I paid for this item that curls. Like, it's like, you're miserable. Like, you are literally miserable. You are creating your own misery. So, like, don't make yourself miserable. Like, that's all I want, you know? Like, if the game makes you miserable, then don't buy it, because it's like, unless you're like unless you're a masochist, you know, like, if you can openly tell me that you're like a masochist and you enjoy spending your money on things that do nothing but make you miserable, then all right, you must be deriving some kind of pleasure out of making yourself miserable, so, you know, you do you. That's fine. But, like, if it literally just makes you miserable and you're sad and upset, like, then don't buy it. Like, don't do it. Like, just buy things that make you happy, man. Let's see here. Bovagon says, I'm still a MTG player in concept, friendly games with friends in arena. Yeah, man. But I don't need to continue to spend money on it to enjoy it, so I'm fine with what I got. Well, there you go. Like, that's where I find myself, too. I'm not even really playing it anymore. I mean, like, if my best friend comes over and he wants to play a game, then yeah, sure. And we can enjoy that, but the thing is, too, is that, like, I see that as me bonding with my best friend. I don't see that as we're having fun only because we're playing Magic together. Like, we're having fun because me and him haven't seen each other in a while and we're bonding over playing the game, you know? So, that's how I see it as. That sounds right, Crash Test Calvin card. Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure it was... I think you're right, Bofag, and I think it was Crash Test who sent me the Calvin and Hobbes card. Which is super cool because, like, that made me really happy because, Calvin and Hobbes, I love Calvin and Hobbes. I actually have, like, the entire collection. I have a collector's edition of, the entire collection of Calvin and Hobbes from beginning to end. And, I love Calvin and Hobbes. I've read all the books, and it's my favorite. So, getting a Calvin and Hobbes Magic card was super freaking cool. I absolutely loved it. It's definitely one of my favorite pieces I have on display for sure. And the thing is that it's not even a real card. It's not even cardboard. It's like a thin piece of paper. But, like, who cares? It's so cool. I love it. Like, I don't care. Oh yeah, it is time to wrap it up. I know, guys, I kind of went a little bit overboard here, but we talked about a lot of things. I'm glad that I kind of talked about anime, because that was the main thing. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video that I did yesterday talking about the two animes that where I was doing a comparison of character development. I hope you guys really enjoyed that, and if you guys haven't seen it already, go and check it out. I really liked what I had to say about that, so I hope you guys go and watch it and really enjoy it, and, you know, enjoy it in your own way or whatever. But other than that, I am going to have to move on and say the last few things that I always say, which is, guys, go ahead and like the stream. Go ahead and leave a comment down below if you're watching it on the backlog. Go ahead and subscribe if you're not already subscribed to the channel. Go ahead and hit that notification bell so you can know when the notifications come in if you haven't done already. Doing those things really help me out. It tells the algorithm that I matter and I do cool things, and it makes it so that my content is distributed more widely to more people, and I greatly appreciate that. Go ahead and check in the description below for all of my wonderful links, such as my Streamlabs link, as well as my PayPal link, so that you can send donations if you so choose to, which greatly help me and the channel out, because all that money always goes to the channel, and I greatly appreciate it. I also have a wonderful Patreon with wonderful Patreon members, which include ya boy Lettuce, as well as Bo Falcon, Mr. Fajouk, the James P, the wonderful Mr. James P, as well as the beautiful Miss Rebecca, and my newest member, who is Mr. Ashed. Thank you, Patreon members, so much for enjoying what I do and wanting to, you know, pay for it. I greatly appreciate that. And also, I'm going to be doing more things with the Patreon. I know I keep saying that, and I haven't really done much, but I swear I'll get it done. It's just been a lot of work doing the video editing and stuff like that to try and figure out how to do Honey Pop 2. It's been quite complicated, and I'm learning a lot. So just stick with me, guys. I promise I'll get it done. So yeah, other than that, guys, I'm going to say the very last thing that I always say, which is, guys, follow your dreams, okay? Do things that make you happy. Don't do things that make you miserable. Misery equals bad. Happiness equals good. That's the most important lesson I can give you today. Do things that make you happy. Alright, guys, follow your dreams, and I will see you guys all in the next stream, in the next video, whatever it is I may be doing.